everyone, I'm Thomas Schmorn, and in this video I am showing you this forest ruins charcoal drawing that I did. So yeah, let's start. So the beginning of this drawing is not shown. I did not record it. I am sorry, but I am beginning on these buildings to the right, where there's a lot of overgrowth and destruction of the buildings taking place because we have trees growing out of them. That was something that I really wanted to translate and play around with. Now, a lot of this detail is going to be taken out. At first, I didn't know what I was going to do with this. This drawing started out as something that I wanted to test the charcoal that I made with my Matthew, which you guys can see the blog post on and go read it. I don't think I did a video on that, but I've made quite a bit of charcoal since then, so that was a fun experience. Anyways, as I'm going in here, eventually I will bring white charcoal in, and I want to make sure I say something just in case there's a beginner or someone who's trying to use charcoal. You want to use white charcoal last and so forth, right? I did not realize what I was going to be doing until later on. Like this drawing was over a course of a few months, a couple months actually, right? And I didn't realize that my background was going to have to be darker than not my background. My foreground was going to have to be darker than the background, and my background was going to have to be just a little bit brighter than everything else, so on and so forth. So a lot of stuff gets changed. I think that the effect that this is eventually going to give out is going to look really cool, but I didn't know that's the direction that it was going to go. So a lot of this gets blended out, and a lot of it gets destroyed, so on and so forth. So I'm going in, I'm working on the building, big building, and so forth. Eventually I'm going to throw grass on the building, and you'll see buildings in the back. I wanted to give some depth to it, but I don't think it turned out quite that great. I think I could have done a lot better if I just let that be blurry. Anyways, for the grass, what I'm doing is I'm doing little tiny strokes. I'm blending that out, and then I'll come in with a kneaded eraser. Then I'll do the same thing until I get the result that I want, and then I will re-blend that out. So what I'm doing here is I'm laying down some tone and then finishing off the grass. Just had a few more of that. This is going to be one of the brightest parts, and then of course I'm getting the background. I wanted that to be darker, and I wanted to use charcoal powder or charcoal dust. This can easily be created with, you can either buy it or you can create it with charcoal that you have. So on and so forth. But that background needed to have that in there so I can later come in and pull out highlights. Then I'm working on these roots. Eventually these will be going away because our foreground has to be darker than our background. And so I, again, didn't know that I was going to be doing this, right? And so I'm like working at all this. Sort of unnecessary. You'll be able to see some of the roots coming through, but not a good majority of the detail that I put into this, which is why this was so frustrating. It took me a while to come to terms with the fact, okay, I need to just blur this out and get to the effect that I wanted. So here I'm going to throw in a tree and eventually just come in with a softer pencil to create that tree, right? And it's just a really cool silhouette, right? There we go. And then I'm drawing the bark of the tree. Oh, this took so long, but I like the end result. I just wanted some of that, the bark of the tree to show through. And then I'm working on the rest of these trees and establishing some highlights. Now this middle tree right here, right? I wanted that to be darker than the rest of the trees. I wanted, I think this helps these trees pop, right? And so my thinking is no light would really be hitting this, or little light would be hitting this. And I like the result that I got from that. And I'm going in, I'm going to be working on these buildings here in a minute, and so I want to talk about what I did with those, and I also want to talk about the light source on these trees. But I wanted some of the texture of the buildings to be showing through. So what I did was I drew some of the details within those light sources, and then I blended out everything around it, and it sort of just allows that texture to show. Right, and then the light source on these trees, I'm really trying to play around with light and how light doesn't have a form of its own. It's shapeless. Instead, it takes on the shape of whatever it is touching or interacting with. So on and so forth. So to some extent, it will follow a form, right? And then that form gets darker as the light cannot reach those forms. And then here I'm working on the most tedious part of this drawing, the leaves, right? I avoided this so much because there's just so much work that's involved. It's not hard to do. The concept is pretty simple, right? Especially if you can understand the shapes, right? And so I try to just remember to create branches. If you don't create the branches, it's going to look very artificial and fake, right? So I try to keep that in mind as I'm building the leaves and everything. And then as I'm going, I also realize that the branches have to be darker, right, than the light source, because light is not necessarily going to be getting to those branches. And so what I'll do is I'll create the branch, and then I will create the leaves, right? I'll do 3 leaves, and then everything else is intentionally random shapes, right? Trees are not perfect. They do not grow in a perfect way within real life. And so to simulate realism, I try to create that by going out and doing these random shapes, so on and so forth. I think I articulated that pretty well, right? I'm trying to remember the outlines of the shapes and then the shapes themselves filled in, right? Those are the 2 things I'm thinking of. And then right here, I am just filling everything out and darkening it more, making the blacker blacks bolder. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, share this with your friends, and give me a like if you liked it. This helps in the algorithm, and I am not in the camera. I'm a dummy. And so if you guys like the drawing, let me know what you guys thought about the drawing, and I will see you guys in the next one.